Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you guys so much for joining me. Today, we're going to be freestyling, having a conversation about all of the great things that has transpired in the past week in my life, and also talking about the slow life. Why is it such a new trend? And what we've learned about it in our own personal uh, life here. We moved out to the country into a village that is about 150 people strong, right? It has halved in the past, over the years, since I moved to Germany, it has halved. And we would come here to visit my in-laws every once in a while, or every other year, or once a year. And recently we made the decision to move back into the village. And this is originally, if you've seen me posting on Facebook or Instagram, you would know that this village is actually the village that my husband is from. This is where he was born and where he grew up um, as a kid. So he moved back after being away for about 15, 17 years. He's been away for a very, very long time. And we wanted to raise our kids here because in this season of our lives, we have actually started to feel a little bit more like we like family values and raising our children in a place that's safe and a little bit slowed down. And my daughter's running around right now in the yard is more important than making a ton of money. And if you guys know anything about German living, you will know that the cost of living in the South is quite high. And there is a lot of, it's a very very fast paced and cosmopolitan place to live. So for younger people, or for us, when I had just moved here, it was great because there were a lot of things to do. Now that we are focusing more on our children and making sure that they are safe and having the best experience of the best of us, and us being present is the most important thing to our um, raising them, we are starting to shift more into a more slow paced and community oriented way of living. And that means for us that we would have to make some really tough decisions as it pertains to some of the things that we had to give up in order to make this move take place. And one of the huge things that we had to give up for the slow life is um, I wouldn't say necessarily give up, but just really start to think about not having so much of is material wealth. And I think that material wealth might be not for everyone, but it's something that really needs to be considered when you are a parent, because as we started to progress along, or at least as my husband started to progress along in his career and journey as a person of an employer, somebody that's being employed in the industry of in the auto industry, this was a conversation that he had to have with himself about, like, what are my goals as a father? What are my goals as a worker? What are some of the things that I want to pass on to my children? And what are some of the things that I don't want my kids to be subjugated to when I get older? And so when we had that conversation about moving here, it really came down to family values, being more present to our children, and being able to minimize and reduce our spending so that we can be living the life of understanding that not everything, like material wealth is important and not having angst about money is important, but it's not the be all and end all of a person's happiness. And of course, people are much happier when they're able to have the freedoms that money can afford them. But feeling bounded and in bondage to an employer or to money or a job or a rent or a mortgage will definitely drain and suck the happiness out of you, because those are constants that you will always seem to be preoccupied with. And the messaging to children usually is, and what we were very concerned about is that the messaging is that um, the sacrifices that we make for our children are to sacrifice our presence to our children in order to give them material things. So material things are more important than actually being present to our children. And that is a very, very strong message that children can pick up from very early on. when daddy's too tired to play with me because he spent all this time working so that he can afford me a new pair of shoes that just came out of the market, right? As opposed to just being okay with the generic brand of tennis shoes that are, maybe a fraction of the price. So we really wanted to start to give a different messaging about materialism in our families, that you can live a rich life or your rich life, but not, it does not always have to mean that it is a sacrifice that you make to things that are also very valuable that money cannot buy. And at the root of that came the discovery of this kind of material driving that is very prevalent in modern democratic, not, let me not use democratic, Western societies. Um, and as I have gotten older, I started to recognize how strongly materialism affects a person's happiness and how important it is for people to make a distinction between riches and wealth. And riches are necessarily rich, while riches might mean that you have enough money to do the things that you want to do. Wealth is the ability to do those things without sacrificing things like your health, your physical health, your mental health, and the relationships around you. And the more time I spend with those people who have come before me, like my mother and my grandmother, the more appreciative I am of the concept of wealth and starting to put in perspective what exactly material wealth is for, what money is for, what riches are for. Because there's a very, very popular saying of, what is it for a man to gain the world and to lose his soul? Right? And that doesn't mean that being rich or being wealthy is bad. But it also doesn't mean that in order that all rich people are unhealthy, or in order to become rich, you have to sacrifice your mental health and your physical health. You're going to have to sacrifice certain things, but the things that you have to sacrifice might not necessarily be things that are worth holding on to. And so, in the era of my slow life and living in a village and being absolutely happy in this little village, like I cannot believe how well I sleep, how much I wake up in the morning looking forward to doing absolutely nothing, or just cleaning up and just being in my own space and being with my children and being more present, and how much being here has actually forced us to be with one another, to be present to one another in such a way that we just could not have when living in a village, living in the city, because we were just always so distracted by this, that, and the other. And I really want to make sure that, if I know not everybody can just pick up and move to the country, there are many, many restraints and reasons why not everybody can do what we did, but we struggled with this conversation for years, y'all, years. And the reasons that we gave ourselves, or the things we told ourselves to stop ourselves from making this big leap of faith, seem kind of ridiculous now. Like, this to me has been one of the more best decisions that we've ever made in our relationship as mother and father, husband and wife, family people, and Handa Simon. This has been one of the best decisions that we've ever made. And we are very grateful to have been able to make that decision to downsize, slow down, and really refocus and regroup on our priorities. It took a while, but I gotta tell you that however long it takes, if you're thinking and feeling like you're in a situation that is not really benefiting you in the long term, take the time to have a serious conversation with your partner and yourself about whether or not the sacrifices that you're making to maintain a certain lifestyle is really worth it in the end. Because at the end of the day, especially if you have children, there's way more at stake than making a mistake. There is also the well-being of your children um, that is in question when it comes to making these decisions. And because we took so long to have this discussion, to make this decision, it always came up like, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for my children? Even if in the beginning it might seem like you're doing it for yourself because you're unhappy, let me just tell you, um, happy people raise happy people. If you're unhappy and you're feeling like you're sacrificing for your children will be communicated will have the communication given to them through your actions that they are a burden. And these are the type of people that grow up to not want to have children. This is a lot of what I see in the interview processing of the great conversation that we've been having with with some of the people that I've been having it with about the issue of population decline worldwide, or specifically Germany, is that people feel like children are burdens. So where did that messaging come from? And I'm not saying that people's parents are bad, or that they have some reason to hate their parents. um Parents just did what they had to do with what they had at the time that they had it. And we no longer have to make those same decisions, but I think our parents had a clearer understanding as to why parenting and being a mom and dad is important in the grander scheme of things, but not just in the grander scheme of things, but also for themselves. And so we've kind of lost that because we have so many more options, and we have been somewhat emancipated about the concept of having to have children, especially as women. Um, and I just want us to be able to revisit that conversation and start to realize that community, family, being a mother, being a father is also an important job. In fact, in my opinion, the most important job that anyone can ever take on in their lives. And the slow life has really reconfirmed that for me. And I hope that everyone has an opportunity to really explore that, even for a little bit within their lifetime, to really reconnect to the things that make a person whole, happy, and successful. So thank you guys for stopping by. I hope to see you guys again in the other one, and in the next one, in the next video. I am back. I realized that I lost a couple of subscribers, just a couple, because I was on my little sabbatical hiatus. But we're gonna try to make sure that we keep this consistent and keep it up. We're gonna try to start to move into different topics. I know that I talk a lot about relationships and family, but we're gonna start to zone in on the macro part of this conversation. And it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be painful, but I will still be focusing on the micro. And so don't get scared. I'm gonna keep it real and keep it real sweet. See you guys in the next one, and thanks for stopping by.